Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Tech with Marco. In one of my last videos I talked about why you should care about your dot files and why it is important to know how they work. And I got a comment asking what my terminal setup looks like and what software I use for that. So I decided to walk through my terminal setup with you and show you guys what software I use and how you can achieve that on your own machine. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Marco. I'm a software developer and a DevOps engineer, and your go-to YouTube channel for all kind of tech-related stuff. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I think now it's a good time to do so. And yeah, just leave a thumbs up and leave a comment if you enjoyed the video. Thanks. So first of all, there are two things to know. I use the terminal application, which is called tabby, and for that I use the shell zsh. So I'm opening my terminal here and my zsh configuration right next to it so that we can have a closer look at that. So on the left side, you see my terminal tabby here, and I just guide through the settings real quick so you can customize that with a different font. You can set up the font size, for example, and much more different stuff here. So you can configure different profiles and connections and some terminal settings here. And yeah, the most important one, I guess, is the color scheme here. And I use the material color scheme here. And with tabby here, you can also use that to configure your settings. But I use my .files configurations repository for that to synchronize my configuration file here. So this on the left side here is my Z shell now. And as you already see, it has some styling modifications to it. And for that, I use the software which is called Starship. So Starship is able to modify your shell prompt. And with Starship, you get so many configuration options that I can't walk through all of that. But the most important ones here are the prompt configuration. There are different examples here, how you can achieve different settings. And I would really recommend playing with that so you can find your preferred setting here. I link my Starship configuration in the description below because they're in my .files repository. You can find them at any time, and I try to keep them updated. So there is also different stuff to configure, for example, for AWS. You can configure stuff for .NET, for Docker, and Java, and yeah, so much more things. Just play around with it, and yeah, they also have nice presets. And what I did, I took one or two presets and I had a look at them, and I just loaded them into my shell here. And from there on, I continued to customize it on my own wishes. So feel free to also use my Starship configuration. As I said, it's linked in the description below. So let's have a closer look at my Starship configuration. The default path is in the .config folder, and then there's a file which is called starship.toml. And I start with adding a new line which is set to false. So that means this prompt here is not starting a new line. So I have a format of my prompt in 2 lines. So I start with character, OS, hostname, directory, and then if applicable, the Git branch, the Git status, Python, the time, and the command duration. And these variables, they refer to all the, for example, the character here. It refers to the character configuration in line 10 here. And I configured 2 symbols here. So the success symbol and the error symbol. So that means every time something is successful in my shell, I have a success symbol here, and that for me is the rocket. And if something is not working, because the command was not found, the ASD, for example, here, I have the error symbol, which is the flame, which symbolizes fire or emergency. So just play around with some symbols here. So there's another cool feature for Starship, which is related to the time. So as you can see, the time here is shown at what time the command finished. But sometimes there's a lot of time between this time and this time here. So I configured the CMD duration time here on the right, and that shows me how long the last command took. So I can sleep my shell here for 5 seconds, and then we will see at the side here, last command took 5 seconds. So this sometimes helps me to see how long a command took, and sometimes that's quite helpful, but sometimes it's also not very helpful. But just a cool thing to play with. So let's have a closer look at the directory configuration here. I have the truncation length of 3 set. So that means every 3 directories, I have this name of the directory shrink to, and now the next line here are 2 characters. So for example, switching into the git directory, as you can see, there's still git visible. Then I change into the next one here, for example, my work directory. It is still visible. And now we have 3 directories here: home directory, git, and work. And the next directory will shrink these 3 to smaller ones. So let's head into, for example, this one here. And now we have my home folder here, then git, then work, and then this mockups here, for example. Quite nice to still have an overview what the full working directory is, but it's not taking up so much space. So now we can have a look at the git configurations here. I have a symbol for git, and this appears when I am in a git directory, and this is the case here. So I'll just go to another one, and there you can see that we have a git directory here, and we are 2 commits ahead of the origin in my local git repository. So that shows me or tells me I have to push 2 commits, but I won't do it because these are just some test commits. But as you can see, I can now like add a file, and there you can see this little uneven symbol. I don't know the English name for that, but this shows me, untracked. So this shows me I have an untracked file in my directory here, and I still have to add it to my working tree. So I can add that. And then you will see I have a ++ symbol, and one file is added. So this shows me I am 1 file ahead here, and I could add that to my pushing working tree. And now you can see this number changed from 2 to number 3. So this visualizes really good how your Git repository is on your local machine. And this helps me to decide when to do what. So I don't have to do Git status all the time. But it's just some nice information to have. Another cool feature of Starship is, for example, the Python visualization. So sometimes I'm using virtual environments when I have Python projects. So I'm now in a repository where I know I have a venv folder for virtual environment, and I can source that venv bin activate folder. And now you can see that I'm here at pyenv version 3.11. So yeah, just some nice Python features here. But now let's switch from the visual changes to real useful functionalities. As I'm using ZShell, I'm able to load plugins into my ZShell startup. So that means I can extend my shell with some specific functionalities, and that is done in the .zsh-rc file. So first of all, we export our ZShell home directory, and that one is .zsh folder in my home directory. And now I can use that ZShell variable in my scripting here. In the next lines, I'm loading auto completions. So that makes me able to use tab to autocomplete different commands in the shell here. Quite useful. The next 4 lines, they're just plain styling. So with that shell, I have the possibility to have a selectable menu with my arrow keys. I can use the tab completion with case insensitive settings here. I'm completing directories with dot and 2 dots, so special years is set to true. The output is a bit colorized, and that one here is just colorized output for the kill command. What I then do is I change some history sourcing settings here. So let's have a look at the history settings file here. So I set the history size to a very high number, so that makes me able to just go mostly indefinitely through my history. And I'm saving that in the zsh history file. And I set some options here to append the history file, to share the history amongst different tabs of my shell. So if I have 2 tabs of shells open here, then if I type a command in the first shell and press enter, then it's appearing immediately in the next one. Sometimes it's quite helpful to have that. I ignore all duplications here because that saves memory and is not needed. And I also ignore commands which start with a space. So that's sometimes quite helpful if you have a command which includes a password, then you can start with typing a space at the beginning and then your password stuff. And then it's not saved to my history file. As the next setting, I am configuring some aliases here. They're not very interesting, so I'll just skip them. But another cool thing is now the plugin sourcing. So there are a bunch of plugins which you can use in your zshell configurations. And I found my plugins just watching other YouTube videos, talking to friends and colleagues and see what they use. And also just by browsing through different dot files repositories. So if you're looking for very cool plugins, I really recommend just taking your time and just search for dot files in GitHub and just go through all of them and have a look at the plugins people use. So currently I have 5 plugins which I mostly use, and I have to say they make my life in the shell quite easy. So let's head over to the plugins directory. So now we have 6 plugins here listed. So the first one I really like to use is fast syntax highlighting. And as you can see, my shell output here is, in my opinion, quite well colored. So fast syntax highlighting, for example, looks like this. I have a command now and I'm starting to type, and as you can see, the C is red. So that means the shell is not able to recognize this command, because when I'm now hitting enter, it's saying command not found, C. But if I extend the C to CAT, then you can see it change to green. So that means I'm able to use the command, and this sometimes helps me to quickly realize, okay, this is a command my shell is aware of, and this is a command my shell is not aware of. So yeah, quite nice to have. And there are also different theme options for that, but I just use the default here. So the next one is really interesting and nice, which is called FZF, which stands for Fuzzy Find. This is a plugin which you can use to, for example, which I mainly use it for, is to search through my shell history of commands. So there's the hotkey, which you might know, which is Control R, which is a reverse lookup of your shell history. And in the basic configuration, this one is quite simple and not very intuitive to find. But if I now type Docker and press Control R, then FZF uses that input to go through my history file and browses and shows me all commands which have Docker in that. And I can also extend that with Docker Compose here, for example. And then I can use my arrow keys to scroll through my history here, which is quite nice. And this helps me to use just commands more often without typing them all the time. Just a shortcut, and it makes my life so much easier. So I really recommend using that. FZF is also way much more than just a reverse lookup. You can use that in directories, in some search queries where you pipe the output into FZF, and then you can search that from there on and open the file out of FZF. So this is a very complex tool, but I use it for a very, very simple case. And that's also the reason why I try to store all my commands in the big history file, because that makes FZF able to search through all of them. So the next plugin I sometimes use, but not very often, is called GoTo. GoTo is basically a tool which does what it says. So GoTo, and then you can enter a short name for something you configured. I configured here dev, so GoTo dev means go to the Git directory I created. Sometimes I use it, but sometimes I don't, so I'm thinking of removing that one to get rid of it. But yeah, just that you know. So the next cool plugin I really like to use is the abbreviations plugin. So you might have heard of aliases, and aliases are, just, for example, I used to have this alias which is called GST, which stands for git status, but abbreviations, they do extend to the real command which the alias is for. So if I type GST, which in my case stands for git status, and now I press enter, then this command expands to its real command. This is quite helpful because you don't forget what the alias is really for. And I really like to use abbreviations way more than aliases. So maybe you can start using them instead of aliases. So another cool plugin is the autosuggestion plugin. The autosuggestion plugin basically shows your last command when you start typing. And for example, I just typed docker, and you can see the last docker command I used was the docker run --rm blah blah blah. And now I can just either use that full command with just typing the right arrow key, or I use the option key and then use the right arrow key, and then I can start from the left and expand it to the right. So maybe I just want to use it up till that point, and then I can start typing something different. So auto suggestions will help you to use the same commands over for a longer time. Pretty useful in my opinion. I really like to use it. And the last one is also very nice. Some people might know the tool J, which I guess stands for jump. I switched at some point to the Z. I don't know why, but I think I like Z more because it's very it's more handy on the keyboard for me. And Z helps you to jump to different directories which you use quite often. So what Z does, it weights your usage of directories in a list, and when you type in, for example, zgit, then it's choosing the directory in which git is in the path and which directory is mostly used over a period of time. Yeah, and that's quite helpful because I hate typing the cd and then going back to the home directory and from there going to downloads. Way better to just use Z, for example, documents, and then I can use tab to autocomplete that. So yeah, pretty nice plugin, which makes my life also way easier. So to jump back to my Z-shell configuration file here, in line 18, I source the plugins.zshell file, and in the plugins.zshell file, I only have all my Z-shell plugins listed to load at startup. And then the next lines are just for my GPG agent, some settings here for my Python environment that it's loaded, and some local binaries are added to my path so I can use them, and also the SDK min, which I use for installing my Java runtimes. And at the bottom, as you can see in line 37, I use Starship init.zshell, and with that command, my terminal is styled with my Starship configurations. I really recommend doing your research on your shell environment. So you now saw mine, and I really like that it's a quite colorful output and has different functionalities like the abbreviation stuff and the expanding the command and changing to different directories with a shortcut and stuff like that. So watch different videos, have a look at my .file repository, And I think on the top right there are some key tags linked, and you can click on the dot files, for example, and then other dot files repositories are shown to you. So do your research. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you're already configuring your terminal setup. And if not, yeah, it's time to start now and yeah, have a better life in the console. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.